Welcome to Living Life and Love. I'm your host, Mark Braxton from Raleigh, North Carolina. This is a global vitiligo awareness and education podcast. You will hear the true and authentic stories from people living with vitiligo. You'll also hear from their loved ones, medical professionals, licensed mental health therapists, relationship counselors, global vitiligo support foundations and organizations, community leaders, and so much more. Sit back and enjoy Living Life and Love. Once again, I'm your host, Mark Braxton from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Welcome to Living Life and Love. I'm your host, Mark Braxton from Raleigh, North Carolina. So on today's show, I have the ladies from Colorful Connections. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before we really jump into it, I always have my guests introduce themselves. So I'll give you a chance. Whoever wants to go first, y'all can, rock, paper, scissors. Y'all can just choose. It doesn't matter. So whoever wants to go first, introduce yourself, maybe tell us where you're from, and then we'll jump into our conversation.
Sure. So I'm Briya Fitzgerald. I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I do a lot. I am a model, an advocate, a veteran, an entrepreneur, and an interior designer. I think I covered the majority of the big bases. But basically my story, I got vitiligo when I was 11. And just throughout life, I think around 20 years old is when I finally accepted myself as a whole human. And in about 2023, I met Vastia in 2022, but in 2023, we decided to birth Colorful Connections. And so Colorful Connections is an organization that focuses on destigmatizing the way that the world views people with visible differences and interacts with them. And so we did a 5-city tour last year. We plan to do another 5-city tour this year, but we cover all bases as far as human-centered and patient-centered care, whether that's media, I'm about to say just all around patient advocacy. And so, that's just a bit about who I am.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Let's go to the other lady that's in the room. I'm not going to say your name since you're going to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vastia Sylvester. I am the second half of Colorful Connections. I do not have a visible difference outside of the fact that I am plus size, but I am an ally to all communities. And what I'm trying to do is show people how to model that behavior. So I'm a psychologist. I'm going for my doctorate this year. I should be starting in the fall. I still don't realize that this is what I'm doing, but it's what I'm doing. I'm a mom. I'm a caregiver. I basically do a lot over at Colorful Connections. I try my hardest not to be on the forefront, but y'all have been asking for me to start talking, so I'm a yapper.
There we go. I often tell people I am introverted by nature, but I talk a lot. When I'm comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm in a setting where I'm not comfortable and the energy doesn't feel right, I'm not going to say a word.
Honestly, because I think one of the things that me and Briya did, so backstory on how me and Briya met. Me and Briya met on the set of a commercial for Shea Moisture. Briya knows me for being an advocate, period. Like, I don't play about contracts. I don't like for people to be bullies. I don't like disrespect. I don't do well in those type of spaces. And Briya is not always the person that's going to talk first, because she's just there. I'm gonna do what I need to do. Like, she's not standoffish, but you can tell, like, it used to take her a minute to warm up, to have conversations. Now that's not the case, and I love that for her, because especially when we first met, there was like this the way in which the world kind of sort of would treat her. I'm like, I don't like the way that person looked at you. I don't like the way that person, didn't care. And she'll be like, oh, I'm tired. And I'm like, okay, so then go sit. Like, I'll deal with them. You worry about taking care of you. I'll deal with the noise. So that's how we kind of like, that's how we met. And then we just were like, stuck together like glue ever since. And then life threw so many different things our way. And there's stuff where we're like, if she didn't show up for me and I didn't show up for her, we wouldn't have been able to do the things that we were able to do. And that's how Colorful Connections like blossomed, like, because we would have individual thoughts of like, oh my gosh, it would be so dope if you and your crew, your vitiligo crew could get together. And she's like, oh my God, imagine an event. Because we had went to CultureCon and she was like, imagine an event where all of us get to just be actually celebrated, and it's not a doctor and it's not medicine, it's people. And then I was like, damn, I want to take it one step further. I'm like, what if everybody who has a visible difference or has a skin condition, autoimmune or autoinflammatory disease comes together because you guys are interconnected. There's not a person who has only one of anything, especially when you have an autoimmune condition. And so like when we started to like really look at other events, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't just coming into something that already existed. We wanted to see like, okay, what is the gaps that currently exist? And it's support groups aren't getting support. Other nonprofits don't necessarily know how to conduct themselves so that way they can get the funding that they're looking for. And then also doctors are feeling as though nobody, like people are coming to them for a cure and nobody cares about them and their workload. So that we were like, okay, well, we don't want to be the support group, right? We want to basically be a hub that allows you to connect with all of the other groups that exist. And then obviously we started to find out about other communities that exist, like especially the HS community. We work with the alopecia community because ultimately our goal is never to just be like, oh, I'm taking from anybody. It's more so like, okay, what do you guys need? How can we show up to assist? And how can we make sure that you're getting the stuff that you need? We don't care about all the extras. And so when we decided to come together, that's basically where that stemmed from. And obviously we started with the vitiligo community because why wouldn't we? Do you not see y'all? Do y'all not see the material? And as an ally to her community, I feel like when Briya decided, like Bria's been online supporting the vitiligo community for ages. Right? Like she follows and interacts and she knows of every, what's going on with every single person. And I think for me, it was like the way in which she loved her community made me be like, okay, so what you want to do? And when she told me what she wanted to do, I said, all right, we're doing it. And she pointed to a door and I kicked it down.
And sometimes you have to do that, excuse me. I like what you say. Or you have to, excuse me, you say people deal with many things, have allergies, asthma, and all that stuff. And it's the middle of the summer. So if you hear me clear my throat, that's what I'm doing, But it's good to have, I think, that bridge between the community, the doctors, advocacy, all these things, because we don't have the answer for everything. Although sometimes we think we do.
That part.
And we may go down an avenue that we need extra support, but then you're like, where do I get that support from? I don't know who I talk to. So I'm glad you guys exist to help us, because help is needed.
Yeah, and part of like the tour for us is always to amplify the people that exist in those cities. Because even when we talk about last year we flew people out from different countries to bring them to America to be able to speak. We gave people who had never, ever spoken before the opportunity to speak and also share their story. We gave people the opportunity to connect. We have people who, once they did something with Colorful Connections, they've been, going ever since. And our thing is we're not here to take credit. We're not here to take anything from it except for that's what we wanted to see. And the thing is that also part of it, and you can ask anybody who's ever been on a panel, I don't play about anybody's mental health. So there's conversations that we've had where I refuse to let the footage come out until I know that the person has done the work to make sure that mentally they can accept, because you're about to share so much of you with the internet, with the world, and you don't know what virality is going to do to your psyche, because that's also another aspect. So it's like for us, our biggest thing is when we say we care about mental health, we genuinely care about mental health. Well, when we say that we care about getting stories out, we care about stories getting out. We don't necessarily care to be the only one. We don't want to be the first ones. We don't want to do any of that. We genuinely, wholeheartedly, without a shadow of a doubt, me and Bria put up our money for Colorful Connections. Colorful Connections ain't give us this money. Like when we first started, we didn't have any funding. It was me and Bria just going toe to toe. Like, all right, I'm paying for this, you paying for that. I'm paying for this, you paying for that. And even in the things that we recouped, it's like, okay, we have to still put that back into the business. And because as anybody knows, that first 5 years of a business is the most crucial. We don't benefit in those arenas. So we find other ways for us to supplement our income so that way we can continue to do the work that we do at Colorful Connections. And this year, you know, Bria, I would love for Bria to talk about her, you know, her journey this year. I think that so many people don't necessarily see, you know, yes, they saw her come to St. Martin to go support Vice, but they don't see like when she didn't want to get out of bed because, you know, her foot was killing her. Nobody sees the struggle part. And I would love for Bria to have the ability, if she, you know, if she chooses, but I would love for her to share like how she was feeling during this time, and then also still showing up for the community, in which sometimes doesn't show up for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a rough period. I mean, I had just moved to New York. As you can see, we're in the same building. I came from Georgia initially last year. I was stationed at Moody Air Force Base when I transitioned out of the military. And so I was about 2 months into school, and it was right before Thanksgiving. And I took a tumble down the stairs and broke a bone at the top of my foot. And I guess 3 or 4 months later, I found out I tore a tendon that same day as well. But then 3 weeks later on Christmas Eve, I was hosting and I was trying to cook and be on my scooter. And I ended up losing my balance and hit my heel on the ground here in my apartment building. And so it was rough, you know, going through you never realize, or I feel like you don't understand the extent of how blessed you are to have all your extremities and be able to move independently until you lose them. And so, you know, even that was a big toll on my mental health. It's like, okay, I just got past this really big pain point, and then 3 weeks later, I'm in even worse pain than what I've ever experienced, you know? And so, did I say I tore my ACL? Yeah, I did. Okay. But yeah, but luckily, obviously, I have Vastia here by my side, and she took care of me for all 4 of those months. But just trying to, and that wasn't the only, like, you know, health thing I had going on. I had about 3 minor surgeries, you know, in the same instance that were totally separate from my foot. And so doing these things and going through these changes and having to deal with my new circumstance, my new environment, being here pretty much by myself besides Vastia and her family. I'm at a new school in a new neighborhood with a new diagnosis and, you know, just all of these things, but still wanting to give my all and, you know, be a present member of the community and still do it. You know, I guess my advocacy kind of gave me my purpose to be able to keep going through those times, especially when we went to St. Martin. You know, I was hopping on the stage on the crutches. I still traveled, you know. She was like, you know, you don't have to come. I'm like, no, I'm still coming.
I was like, she's still and not only
that happened, a week or 2 before I had to leave. So I broke my foot a week or 2 before I had to leave to St. Martin.
And the thing is like Bria was like feeling like, you know, because she didn't want to be too much of a burden on me. I was like, baby, Focus on you. I'm like, we're gonna go, we're gonna enjoy ourselves, we're gonna go do what we gotta do. I was like, if I gotta carry all the bags on my back, I'll carry all the bags on my back. If I gotta, push you in every wheelchair, I'm gonna push you in every wheelchair. If I gotta keep walking with you to the water, take your crutches and then walk all the way back and then walk back, I'm gonna do that. Because I think, part of allyship or part of partnerships in any relationship, friendship, romantic, or what have you, there's going to be a time when you're down, and there's going to be a time when I can take care of you. And that's what we do as Colorful Connections for the community, right? It's like, all right, we are talking to these doctors when you don't feel like you have it in you to talk to these doctors.
Right.
We are doing the work so that way, in the moments in which you're like, I give up, somebody else can come in and be like, all right, you take your break, you handle your mental health, you come back when you're done. And that's, and the reason why I wanted her to showcase her, like the strength that she showed is because that's literally, like, that tells you that this is not someone who's just in it for no reason. Like I said, like we got stuck in St. Martin. We done went through a lot. And
speaking of new doctors,
you
transition to a new dermatology clinic, being that I'm a person who's in treatment, I treat, just to maintain. And so, dealing with the new dermatologist here in Brooklyn, as I said, I'm a veteran, so it's not directly typical doctors. It's just like kind of whatever the military serves you pretty much. And so, dealing with, dermatologists, and they're seeing you for the first time. And I've had vitiligo for about 15 years, and you want to tell me about what it is. And it's just like, sir,
I already know that.
We passed this point. I came in here for a different reason than what you're providing. And then Vastia kind of, after I was done exhausting myself of saying the same thing of, hey, I came here to establish treatment here, and you're telling me about all these other things that I've already tried, or two, I don't know much about, and you're not providing me with the information about when I'm asking you, okay, so tell me about it, and you're not doing that, but you're like, oh, we need to treat this aggressively, and you're being all,
listen, I couldn't sit down and be quiet anymore. I was sitting there and I'm looking, like, I'm watching her become depleted in conversation with this person, right? And it's like, she came in, this is what I want. I'm just here as support, right? I'm not here. I'm not making decisions for her. Whatever she says she wants to do, that's what you got to do. And so when we're having these conversations and she's talking to the dermatologist, and they're like they're treating her like, oh my God, we got to treat this aggressively. Oh my God, have you ever done it over here? Did you ever do it down there? What about
I'm like their first vitiligo patient, or one of very few. And so they're like, okay, I
want to take pictures now.
You know what they saw, right? You know what they saw? Money.
Yeah,
we're gonna make some money off of this person.
And they really did. And the thing is, it's like they tried so hard to kind of sort of play on her insecurities as if she had them. And so I was sitting there and I was quiet. I know I talk a lot, but in that room, because again, that's not my space. I'm a guest in her space. So when I see that she started to deplete, I'm like, so this is what we're going to do. This is what we're not going to do. This is what she's asking you for. This is how we're going to do it. She's asked you for this, this, and this. These are the things that you're going to give her. It sounds like you're trying to sell her something as opposed to treating her the way that she needs to be treated. That's it. What are we doing? And literally he was like, I'm like, she already told you. Me and her co-founded a vitiligo group. She has vitiligo for over a decade of her life. Why are you talking to me or giving me explanations about what vitiligo is? Baby, if you don't get out my face, she's coming in here telling you, hey, this is my history. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. If you want to give me information, give me a brochure and then we could go.
Right.
That's it. That's all. I said, what are we doing? Next thing you know, now he wants to listen. Why do I have to then become aggressive? But that's the part of the ally part,
You
is
know
the
what?
moments in which you can't, I show up.
Right. And I feel like a big part of the challenges we face, and you mentioned it earlier, Bree, is understanding or the lack of. That goes from the doctors, the dermatologists, that goes from the pharmacies to your family members, sometimes your friends. People don't understand what the journey's like. And sometimes people feel like, well, your journey, oh, it's got to be so horrible. And maybe you want to jump out of a plane without a parachute. And everybody's journey is different. You know, yes, some people have had journeys where it's drastic, some people not. Some people seek support for community, some don't. Some people seek treatment. Like, I tried treatment in the beginning. I don't have much on my face. Well, around my mouth. This is my new journey, creeping up my neck. That's new. And I got a spot in my eye right here. That's new. So I feel like I'm in my second phase of vitiligo. I don't know what it's gonna do. My legs and feet, they're white, you know, like it is what it. My hands almost white. Okay. But people don't understand what your journey's like, and they think everything that affects you is vitiligo. And it's not necessarily it. There are other things in our lives that we deal with on top of having vitiligo. You know, maybe I was in a marriage that didn't work out and I'm dealing with that situation, but then you're looking at my vitiligo like that's my issue. No, I'm not worried about that. Or like for me, I have asthma, and I mentioned this before. If I can't breathe, I'm not worried about my skin. I'm trying to get some air, you know. Like, so I think it is the lack of understanding, even within our own community, because we think we all are on the same journey. We think we've had the same experiences. Yes, we have vitiligo. It's similar, but it's different for everybody. Now, I've had my vitiligo since, I always say I was about 26. I can't keep track. I'm 52 now, but it's slow spreading. Where some other people, they've had it for less time and it's spread more. Everybody's life is different. Everybody's journey is different. What we go through in life is different. So we can't say, oh, it's all the same. No, it's not. It's different.
Agreed. Like, you can't tell somebody what to do and how to feel about their own body. Like, I feel like that was one of the main things that we had to address. And initially coming into this, it's like, you know, people will come and they're like, oh, you know, we all need to embrace it. And it's just like, okay, but also, you know, there are different ways. You know, this person may have got it from grief, and when they see their spots, they think about the person that they lost. You know, there's several different factors and spectrums of the experiences that we go through, and we can't put it into a one size fits all formula for a solution. You know, some things is just a journey.
And we've had this conversation before. When it comes to the community, again, I'm an outside looking in, right? You know, take it how you gonna take it. Outside looking in, there are so many different people that exist that have an experience, and I don't like the fact that so many people are pining for a cure, right? Or pining for acceptance, or pining for, you know, a doctor to look in their direction, or, you know, like, and I think for me, looking in, I'm just like, so you're suffering. What is the suffering? Like, I want to get to your root of what the suffering looked like to you. And that was something that, like, I had to look at, because I'm like, I'm reading the comments, I'm looking at the messages that we receive, I'm looking at all of these things. And if everybody's saying that they're suffering, but their suffering is not from the actual vitiligo, but by, you know, by proxy of the vitiligo, what can we do to help you have less suffering? Because that's now we're talking about something completely different. So now it's not necessarily the fact that you have the vitiligo. It's more so the way society is treating you with your vitiligo, and because of that, it's changing the way in which you perceive self, right? You know, and we all have levels of insecurities, but it's very different when you look at someone else and you're like, oh, well, hers is only on her eyelashes, so
Right,
you
right.
know she don't really got vitiligo.
Really got it.
She not really down for real.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, again, as an outsider, like hearing the different perspectives, because it's like that shouldn't be. We're all connected.
Right,
Every single person on this planet, whether we like them or we don't, we're all interconnected.
right.
And there's people who have vitiligo and they also have eczema, and they also have psoriasis, and they
Yep.
also have HS, and the list is long as the things
Right,
that they have. And you want them to solely only identify as vitiligo, while also not wanting the world to treat you the way that you are now treating your own community. So how do you expect that to happen? If you don't want to be seen as just vitiligo,
right.
you cannot then turn around and treat someone else in the same manner. And again, I already know I'm gonna get flack because again, I don't have vitiligo, but being surrounded by so many people, hearing so many stories, having literally having powwows for hours on the
Yeah,
phone, listening to people cry, like
yeah,
this is firsthand, like retelling or recanting of stories.
yeah.
And you know, that's what we did last year. Like, I'm not gonna hold you, our tour last year, the reason why it was as like, oh my god, you guys need to have another one, is because we were having honest conversations.
Right, right.
We talked about suicidal ideations. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about dating. We talked about marriage. We talked about relationships. We talked about having vitiligo, then losing all your pigment, then regaining pigment, then losing it
Right,
again. We talked about the honesty surrounding it. And I think that that's the part that a lot of the doctors and all of the other dermatologists aren't understanding, is that there's honesty that exists within what your patients are telling you.
right.
There's honesty within that. And then also people who also have vitiligo, there's honesty there, that nobody wants to have those uncomfortable conversations. And then they're getting mad that the conversation's not being had. So what you
Right.
want?
And you know, and with that, that's something we try to do here in North Carolina. Like, how do you live your life? You know, yes, we have vitiligo. We know that. People see it, they know it.
Yeah.
But what are you doing to live your life? You know, what is it that makes you you? And that's what I did that little short podcast about. I wanted people in the community to say, this is who I am, but this is what I enjoy. This is how I have fun. You know, yes, like Tiffany, she models and she creates stuff. And then I learned that Kim Yetta paints and she likes to do crafting. I'm like, oh, so that's something new I learned about somebody else. And I think what we need to do, or we can do as a community, is explore who we are as people. You know, we're people first. Yes, we have vitiligo. Yes, we see it, we acknowledge it, but there's so much more to us than meets the eye. It's not like Transformers, more than meets the eye. You know, like
Transformers.
yeah,
Mhm.
I'm showing my age. But it's like, I want to know who you are as a person. Okay, I don't want to talk about vitiligo. You know, what do you like to do? Oh, what kind of work do you do? Like Bree, learn that you were in the military. You know, like those are things that make you a part of you. You know, you like to model, and you maybe you're getting to the point where you can get on stage and talk more. You know, like these are things that make us all human. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I did not want to do a podcast at all. I didn't want to talk to people. Funny thing, I actually went to school for communications, radio, TV, journalism, but there were no jobs.
Yeah.
So I started going to education, teaching kids and stuff. Okay, cool. But when I was given the opportunity to share my story, I had to do it, and I had to be honest with myself, because I never talked about vitiligo. I never wanted to talk about it. Nobody asked, so I'm not going to tell you. And it allowed me to be vulnerable about my challenges and all that. But then I realized, but that's not all of me. That's just a small part of who I am, but it doesn't make me who I am. So I really want the community to work on that, you know, as best we can. It's going to have to take support. We're really identifying who we are as people.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the most, prevalent portions of our events is like, we want to know about you. We want to know about all of you. Like, what are you doing? This is, we're still a community, but we can talk about our careers and network. And, this person does this here. Okay. I didn't know you were here doing this. And now you have that connection. I feel like when we established Colorful Connections, that was one of the main things that we wanted to hone. Like, hey, this is more than just what we have and what we have experienced, similarly on the outside, but this is more so about who you are on the inside and, who you are in society and what's your experience been, as a producer, that's what we want to know. So, yeah. And also, your story with vitiligo.
Because I think one of the things is like, you're more than just your condition.
Mm-hmm.
You will always be more than just your condition. You will never just be. And I think once people, especially within the community, see themselves outside of their condition, they can allow themselves the freedom to be.
Yes.
And that's what we want. We want people to feel like they can still be themselves. Obviously, be cognizant of those that are around you, because there's no man that is an island, and we are all working on this thing, on this rock together. But everybody is more than just their conditions.
Absolutely.
It doesn't define you. It's not your definition.
I'm gonna bring up something, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about advocacy, and then we'll get to the point where we can wrap things up. What's interesting, like being single and meeting people, one of the first questions I ask is, who are you? Tell me who you are. Not what you do for a living, not your work, that's your job. Who are you as a person? And I'm realizing people don't know. And I'm like, wow, and I guess for me, that's work I've done to discover who am I as a person, and I don't bring up vitiligo because they can see it. Mm-hmm. Although at one time I did, and I was told, why do you keep bringing it up? And I was like, oh, I don't have to, because I can talk about Mark and the different things that make up who Mark is. And I realized in talking to other people, it's like, people don't know, because I think sometimes we don't do the self-reflection of saying, this is what I love to do. Here's my hobbies, my interests, all these things. That makes up you, How do you handle situations? What do you do when you're frustrated? Do you fly off the handle? You cuss people out? Do you try to fight people? Do you walk away from it? Do you take a moment to have an intelligent response? Or, what do you do? And I realize sometimes we don't think about all these questions. We just go with the flow of things. And I know there's some people in our community, I'm gonna be honest, we might cuss people out. Yes. And we might have some people that will put hands on you. Not in the churchy way. And I brought that up before. Like we're so different, but we put everybody in the same box. I heard one time people with vitiligo referred to as angels. And I'm like, ooh. There's some devils in the community too now. You got to watch out now. Not everybody's peaceful, Mm-hmm. But let's move past that real quick. Let's talk about advocacy and why it is so important. And I guess I could start off. I wasn't always an advocate for vitiligo or for anything really. Not until 2019 when I was introduced to the North Carolina community. And I had no choice but to become an advocate because we had a child at my school that needed support. Mm-hmm. And her mother wanted to talk to me and wanted me to talk to her about her daughter about vitiligo. And I was like, I'm not good either. But so it allowed me to be honest with myself and share my journey in support of her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like talking to people about vitiligo, but I also take it from many different steps, from the scientific aspect to the treatments to seeking the support community to my journey, and then add some fun things, like I deal with some of the weird comments. Just had a little girl tell me the other day at a school function that my hands were dirty. Like my hands are not dirty. It's vitiligo. I lost the color of my skin.
She said, "Please." She said, "I know dirt when I see it."
We were giving out. Look, we were giving out popsicles, And I handed one to her. She said, "Your hands are dirty." I'm like, "No, they're not dirty. I'm sorry. That's vitiligo. You'll get to know me next year." And she was honest. She was like 5, so I get it,
Yeah.
But I just feel like, advocacy is so important and it's not always loud. It's not always a big grand thing. Sometimes advocacy could be as simple as, like, yesterday I went to a parade. We had the Caribbean Festival, and just showing up and being present so people can see, oh, that person has vitiligo, but he's enjoying this, or she's over there, she's enjoying that. So advocacy is so different for every person. But what is it like from your point of view, with and without vitiligo?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I kind of just slipped into advocacy, honestly, truly. It was never a plan. I feel like I've always been for what's fair. So that's just an innate trait of my own, of my character. But when I started my modeling journey, I got casted for Walmart, which I didn't know at the time. I just kind of stepped out on a leap of faith and went to Secaucus, New Jersey. Boom, found out it was Walmart, and we were gonna be the models that you can try to clothes on. And I was like, oh wow, so people are gonna see themselves. People who look like me are gonna see themselves and be able to see, what this type of skin type will look like on somebody with vitiligo, like because you don't, at the time, you didn't see it in cartoons or dolls or, anything of that sort. So I thought it was really awesome. And it was like, from there, the feeling that, I guess that shoot in itself brought up. No, I would say before that, I was doing hobbying like with vitiligo, as obviously as a model, and I would tag vitiligo model, and I think that's how they discovered me. But to hear like the responses that I got from my own social media page, like my Instagram, I would get doctors saying, hey, like, you're so beautiful, can I please put your picture up in my clinic so that my patients can see that they can choose to do whatever with their journey, but you can be as beautiful as you want to be. And I was like, of course, like that, those type of things is what really like touched my soul. And it was again, I felt that invigorating feeling of wanting to do more, and then it kind of fumbled when I fumbled into or funneled into, I should say, Colorful Connections, when I met Vastia, who's top dog for justice all across the board. It was kind of like, okay, well, this is, hello. It's Pink, I'm Pink, it's nice to meet you. It was kind of like that, and so yeah, I mean, advocacy work, obviously it looks different for me now. I'm more vocal about vitiligo and things that we go through as people with vitiligo, but before I just existed, and I did it in an artistic form. I was learning, my body and how to use it to make different forms, and then to highlight my skin in different ways. And so I feel like that was my first form of advocacy, which is reflecting and like just being people's muse and being like, hey, we could do this.
Right. Awesome. But still, you want to say something? Then I'm gonna add something.
Advocacy for me.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
But advocacy for
just
me.
bring it. Just
Listen, as a Haitian, okay. So for me, growing up, I've always been the person where it's just like, if something's not right, I'm gonna tell you that it's not right. I don't care if I am the only person standing there. My mom, she tells people this, and this is back in the day when beatings were okay. They were never okay, but they were okay.
They were allowed, yeah.
And my mom basically said, like, she was like, if you gave me food and I did not want it, I didn't care if I was starving. I'm not eating it because I said that I'm not eating it. Don't agree. Relax. Oh, calm down. Calm down. But it was more so because of, like, if something is right, it's right. And if it's not right, it's not right. And you can't tell me because you want this food, I'm now forced to eat the food that you want me to eat because you want it. That's not fair to me. Now, it's one thing if we have a conversation and it's a compromise. I can compromise, but I'm not going to compromise myself, and I'm not going to compromise my integrity. And I remember, like, my mom, she was like, because I only liked white rice, or I didn't like rice with beans. So my mom would literally be like, she would make something a pie, like she'd make it separate from what I ate. And I remember, I'm like, if my mom can go out her way to make me a small thing of white rice because I don't want rice and beans, I can go out my way to make sure other people are comfortable without compromising who I am. There's a way for us to be able to coexist. There's a way for us as people to be able to show up. Like, even when I was in school, I was the person that you called when you didn't like your bully, right? Because I bullied the bullies. I don't like bullies. Like, it don't. And you know, like, when we came into this advocacy with Colorful Connections, it was like, I didn't like the way people were treating her. Like, I didn't like the way people were looking at her. And I was like, girl, in New York, I see people with vitiligo all day, every day. Like, what are we talking about? And for her, that wasn't her truth, right? Like, in her parts, when she's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, you probably saw someone, but that was rare. Here, I walk outside, she done seen more people with vitiligo in New York. I feel like then going to some of these events. But in New York, we take care, where I'm from Brooklyn, we take care of one another.
Right.
Like, I don't have to know your backstory to want to see you do good. I don't have to need to know anything except for you're human, I'm human. You need somebody to look out for you, I'm looking out for you, and then I'm gonna be about my business. Whatever you got going on after that, I don't care. I just want to make sure you could, like, because again, show love. That's the Brooklyn way. Like, that's what I grew up on. And also, being Haitian, we're big on community. And so, like, when as an advocate, I fell into advocacy because my entire being is such. And working in the hospital, I was a mandated reporter. Even prior to working in the hospital, I worked with children as well as adults who had developmental inabilities. So it's like, working in all of these different spaces and just being like, I don't like the way that your parents are talking to you. Or like my daughter, she brings people to me because she knows that I'm going to take care of them. And it's not because, you know, she knows me as an advocate. She knows me as a person who cares about people.
Right.
And I think that's the part of advocacy that people don't get, is like, I care about people. I care that the doctors are getting the type of care that they need. I care that patients are getting the type of care that they need. And if I can find an answer that basically gives you guys enough to make you both content, we can coexist, and we'll be straight. Like, and you know, you said something earlier about your existence is advocacy. I would like to challenge that and say that it's not. I think that your existence is just is. I think that when we put the idea of advocacy in our the way that we walk, talk, it's kind of sort of like being a representative without signing up to be a representative. And it's not your job to have to teach people every day about vitiligo. It's not, and I think that, you know, especially when Briya would be out and we're shopping and I'm looking at people wanting to walk up to her, I'm going to interject and I'm be like, oh my God, isn't she beautiful? Because one, I don't know how you coming at her, because the way that you're looking at her, I'm from Brooklyn again. I'm with whatever you with at all times. So, you know, like things like that is just like her wanting to just exist and shop and do the things that she just wants to do. And then somebody is like, oh, well, since you got vitiligo, all right, so I need to know when it started. Did Michael Jackson actually have this? And No, because again, in those moments, she's not an advocate in those moments. She is just Briya in those moments. So I feel like it does you and everybody else a disservice when we think of ourselves in that way.
That we feel like we got to be on all the time, and we don't.
That part.
You know? And you know, I'm glad you said that, because there are times when you get the pressure of, when I go out, I've got to have my vitiligo hat on and be ready to talk to somebody. And honestly, here I don't see anybody else with vitiligo unless we have a meeting. Because in my journey here, I don't see anybody. The places I go, it's just me. And to be honest, I'm not looking for anybody. But I know there's some of us that we are I'll see, oh, somebody vitiligo over there. Oh, I see. If I see somebody, I'll acknowledge, but I'm not going to run up to them. I'm not going to go take pictures because they're living their lives just like I am. If they're at the grocery store, they're shopping for a reason. If they're at the restaurant eating, they're there to eat, you know. And I saw a gentleman one day, and when I walked in, I guess he noticed me first. When I sat down, so I'm looking, it's vitiligo. And it was that, that was it. That's all we needed. We acknowledged each other, but I didn't need to run up. I didn't need to run up to him and find out when did it started, what treatment you're doing. Yeah. But like you said, did you know about Michael Jackson? Do you know about whoever? We do have to live our lives. And when it's important, like if Katrina and I are doing a community event, yes, turn on the advocacy hat. If I'm doing a presentation at school, yes, turn it on. But when I'm in my classroom, I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Now, if a child asks me, I'll share,
That's different.
That's different. But typically I don't get anybody that will ask me about vitiligo. But I also feel like, and I've said this before, these things right here, that's all the knowledge you need. If you want to know somebody has white spots, look it up real quick. Oh, vitiligo. The phones can tell you everything you want. Ask chat, ask somebody, they can tell you. Then, because especially if you see that person enjoying themselves, I'm at a concert. I don't want to talk about vitiligo at a concert.
Yeah.
If I'm at the movies and before the lights turn off, you notice I have vitiligo, I don't want to talk about it in the movies. I don't. I'll be respectful if somebody has a question, but I'll keep it very short, because I'm trying to, like you say, enjoy the moment.
And that's why we exist, is because we want to basically give enough allies and enough people who do not have a condition information, so that way y'all already have the information. Now you can just see the person. That's it.
Right,
that's all.
Right. Let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll get to the point where we wrap things up. And I'll share with you how we like to wrap things up. What are some of the challenges that come along with advocacy? Because we know they exist. I could go down 500 things, but let's just talk about some of the challenges.
Yeah, I mean, definitely being a new advocacy group in a from a season space can definitely be a challenge, and it's something that we had to learn. But yeah, I think just there's politics everywhere, and unfortunately, it exists in places where people just need care, and so we've run into some walls a few times, but we just continue.
Or y'all tried to give us walls.
Yeah, I say to be walls.
You tried.
However, I mean, we're not here for that. We're here for the mission that we have, and that's to destigmatize the way that the world views people with visible differences. So that's what we will continue to focus on, and so that's what we did. I feel like we have a creative sense that we put our brains together that nobody can imitate, or we have ideas. We all have our own minds, and so we just understand that this is how we do it. We will continue to do it how we see fit, and what works best for the community from feedback and from what things that we're hearing. Like we bridge gaps, so that's how we continue to find different avenues to be able to bridge those gaps.
Cool. Now I'm gonna share something, and it might not be popular opinion with the community, and I get it. I'm not always here for popular opinion or to be agreeable. Sometimes you have to say things that hurt. Sometimes when new people come in, a lot of times they're treated like outcasts, like you do not belong. And what I've noticed,
look, I was about to say it, but go ahead.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. As somebody living with vitiligo, being on the outside coming in, I came in 2019. 2020 was the first conference virtual, but seeing people in person, it's almost like, I don't know you. Who are you? Where you from? Who you with? We're not gangs. I'm gonna say up front, we're not gangs. So stop asking people who you with, what group you belong to, like
that part,
and then separating each other because I'm affiliated with this state, or I work with this group, or I'm on this committee, or we got to stop all that because it creates a lot of division. And I've seen it. I've sat back and watched it. I've been a part of it where when I did the radio show, I've asked people to come on as a guest, and they're like, "No, I can't do it because you work for that group." who cares? Like,
That
I've
part.
asked you to come on and share your story. Like,
That part.
so
And
go ahead, Vastia.
and I think you hit the nail on the head for me. Because the thing is like when I say that me and Bria came into this space and we did things in a way where we both were respectful to those who had already existed prior to ourselves, as well as made sure that we were true to ourselves and the people in which that we were planning to assist. I think that a lot of the times there's so many different conversations that are happening where it's like everybody thinks somebody's coming for something.
Yeah.
And my thing is I'm not here for you specifically. I'm here to support. I am here to help. I am here as an ally. And again, I understand that I do not live with a condition, but as a person who does not live with a condition but wants to show up for the community, by not allowing not only just myself, but also those who are impacted by you being stubborn, you are now showing the people that you claim to care for that you don't actually care about them. You care about what the numbers look like for you. I don't got time for stuff like that. Never have, never will. And I think that, you know, like, especially being in this space, I have been met with a lot of resistance. And even with the resistance that I've been met, everybody, as soon as they meet me, they switch up. Because again, it's like, oh, so you're not the person that I heard about. You're not the person that I thought you were. And I'm like, I literally sit on the phone and I help people with their contracts. Mind you, I should be charging. I have yet to charge. And I'm talking about, like, I'm looking at contract. I'm making sure that people are having the ability to look at a person eye to eye and getting the level of respect that they deserve. And you don't like me because I don't got vitiligo.
Right.
Crazy work.
Let me share something, and we're going to get to the point where we're going to wrap things up. I never understood that. Where as a community, and yes, people can be upset with me, I'm okay with that.
Oh wait, hold on, but they don't do it to the doctors though. But go ahead.
We treat people without vitiligo like we treat ourselves like we're better than everybody else, you know. And I've seen that if you have vitiligo, oh, the world outside of vitiligo is different. No, we're still people. We're still humans. We're still here trying to live. We're trying to breathe. We're trying to work. We're trying to raise families, all these things. But yet we treat somebody without vitiligo like they don't belong. No, we all belong. You know, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I've never treated anybody like that where, okay, you don't have vitiligo, so I can't talk to you. You don't have vitiligo, so you can't be on my show. You don't have vitiligo, so we can't sit and have dinner together or hang out together. No. If you want people to truly understand what it's like for us, just be yourself and go out with people, hang out.
Agreed. Very much so agreed.
Yeah, it's like we're all here with the same mission. You make it harder for us as a collective by creating these division points. It's like we need each other. So what are we even talking about?
And not only that, but again, kind of sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier, majority of us, we are not a monolith. We are not as people. Now, as a Black person, we are not a monolith. Now, I have a saying, the more hyphens that you have to your name, the harder the world tends to treat you because of the way in which they don't understand you, right? So if you are a Black woman, if you are a white woman, if you are like whatever, how many hyphens that you have attached to your identity, the harder it tends to be for you. So why are you allowing yourself to be more isolated because of those things? Like you're now literally putting yourself in the box that you said that you did not want to be in, that the world is putting you in. So why are you doing it for the world? Why are you allowing the world to be able to win in that fashion? That doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely. And going back to the advocacy, when we're talking about books and writing and, you know, some of the creative things that I've seen from the community, sometimes I'm like, where are the stories that are quote unquote considered the average story, not about vitiligo, but just written by somebody with vitiligo? You know, I feel like every story we tell has to have a child in school that bully with vitiligo, and I get it. It's a story to tell, but it's the same story. I've read 3 of them exactly the same way. Like, where are the creative stories? Where are the ones where, we talk about wanting heroes to look like us? Write that story. Write the next Barbie story that's not Barbie, but something on that nature that has a character with vitiligo that shows, friendships and all that. Like, can we get, I feel like as a community, I want us to get a little more creative in the things
I agree.
do. Yeah.
And also the other thing is like, so perfect example, writing the article about James for Forbes.
Mhm.
I was very intentional on making sure that his story was his own and that
Right.
his story did not feel as though he was becoming less than or was being defined by solely his vitiligo.
Right.
And I think that especially when I think about the world at large, I think that when we were doing it, at first, their first article title was, "Oh, vitiligo is the reason why this person did not want to thrive." And I was like, listen,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We're going to change the narrative,
Right.
because ultimately, and the thing is like, you could tell that the first time James came to me, he was a little defeated in like, he was like, "So that's the story that they want to go with? What happened to the story that you wrote?" And I was like, "Oh, trust me, I'm just letting you know that the article is out, but
Right.
definitely," I was like, "it's not getting published until it's fixed." Because again, his story was important. They tried to make it seem as though that I, made him, this,
Accept him.
yeah, like I made him accept himself as this photographer. And I was like, that's not true. I said,
Right.
he's been confident since he was a kid.
Right.
I just came into his life. I could never give him the amount of confidence that that man already has,
Right.
that dwells within his vessel. I could never do something like that. So when we sit here and we think about the totality of the way that the world, when we think about the way, listen, I already had the conversation with you before about the wife.
Yes.
Anyways, so when we think about the totality of his of who he is, you are not going to rewrite the fabric of him in front of me and think that it's going to slide. That's just not what we do. And I think that that's the reason why I love the work that we do at Colorful Connections, is because we want the narrative to change. We want it to shift. We want the stories to be authentic. We want them to be real. We want them to be honest.
Right.
No matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had a nurse one day say, "I'm sorry that you're suffering with vitiligo." I said, "I don't suffer from vitiligo." I said, "Vitiligo is not hurting me." I said, "You see, I'm out here living like everybody else." Like, what do you mean suffering? Well, and I'm like, "No, I don't suffer from it." I said, "If I'm suffering from anything, once again, is I'm having an asthma attack, then I'm suffering." I said, "If allergies are high allergy season, then I may be suffering from that. From vitiligo, no." I said, I might have a day or two where I might not be as confident, but that's something I deal with within myself and say, okay, what am I going to do to be confident, to go outside, throw on those shorts and show off those legs? Like, yeah, suffering. I've never, I'm going to be honest, I've never suffered from vitiligo,
Yeah. And Briya will tell you that's my pain point. I hate hearing.
Yeah, we did that one, discuss the suffering, but yeah, definitely changing the narrative surrounding our experience and seeing it for what it actually is.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, look, this is a great conversation, and I'm just trying to honor our times because I'm about to go get something else to eat. Get hungry after a while. But I know people are like, he always talking about food on the podcast. Well, talking makes you hungry, but
okay, especially when you having real good conversations.
Right.
You're like,
absolutely.
You know what? Let's eat something and chat.
Eat and chat, absolutely. But I'm not going to do that on the podcast trying to eat.
Exactly.
Like, what are they doing?
Listen, that's a mukbang. Okay, that's different.
Right.
But let's do this. What I like for my guests is I always leave the listeners with words of encouragement. So I'm gonna let you two, y'all can rock paper scissors again to figure out who's okay.
It's
Briya.
gonna be Briya.
You just share some words of encouragement, and then I'll wrap us up.
Words of encouragement. It's okay to be yourself. And I understand that sometimes that it is scary because of the way in which other people might treat you. But I would rather be surrounded by people who love me for who I am genuinely than for those who love me for who I pretend to be. Because eventually that will mess with your psychosis and that will mess with your psyche, because you're going to start thinking about the fact that, oh, this person doesn't actually like me. So that also unfortunately exasperates vitiligo. It exasperates different conditions because, again, that's part of mental health.
Yeah. And then mine would be, I said that initially, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna change it up. So basically, the hardest thing or the scariest thing that you can do is to face yourself. And I feel like you don't start living until you're able to do that. You don't get to exist freely until you take that first step of facing yourself. And so, at the core of, you have to get to the core of who you are. And so, I would encourage people to face themselves.
Absolutely.
And be honest about it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Honesty and facing yourself. So on that note, I'm going to wrap us up. And the way I always like to end my show is talking about love. That's why I call it living life and love. You got to live your life, but you got to live it with love. And I know that can be challenging sometimes because the world is crazy.
Yeah.
And you say, how can I love this person over here who hates me? You can love them from a distance, a long distance.
Absolutely.
But I always tell people, make sure you love your family members. That can be your spouse, that could be your brother, sisters, aunt, uncle, cousin, grandma, grandpa. I know it's sometimes challenging to love our families because sometimes they are the ones that hurt us the most. Love your kids. I'm a school teacher. I see it all the time. Our kids are fighting for love. They want to be loved. They want to feel it. They want to express it. Love those kids. Love that stranger on the street that you don't know what people are going through. We all are dealing with something. And I know sometimes we as humans can look down on others, but still show that person love. You don't have to talk to them, but you know they need something. You may not know. If you want to say a prayer for them, say it in silence and just, hey, help that person. I don't know what they need, but help them. But most of all, I always say before we can help anybody else, we got to love ourselves. And I always say, look in that mirror and tell yourself, I love you, because we don't do a lot of that. And ladies, I appreciate you being here.
Yes.
So thank you.
So happy to be here.
I don't normally throw a heart up there, but I usually do my piece. People's like, why you always do that? Because I'm old, and that's what old people do. So for my listeners, you have been listening to Living Life and Love. I'm your host, Mark Braxton from Raleigh, North Carolina. And I would like to thank my guests again, Briya and Vastia from Cultural Connections, for being here. Y'all take care and peace.
Alone in the world, afraid of my spotted stage. I lost my self-worth due to my skin's loose shades. But then I learned the truth, my value never changed. Vitiligo's my story, is nothing to be ashamed. It's just a skin losing melanin's hue, but it doesn't take away the passion that burns inside of you. It affects about 1 in every 100 souls. We're different, not less than, we're shining like gold. Every patch, every line is a masterpiece. I'm stronger now since I found my inner peace. Surrounded by my family who lifts me higher. Love and hope keeps me fueling my fire. I'm priceless like a diamond, no matter the shade. My light still shines bright, it will never fade. With my peace by my side, I'm never alone. The skin is my crown, now reclaiming my throne. Mental health is key, gotta guard your mind. Feed your soul with love, leave the dark thoughts behind. When the world feels heavy, I know where to run. To my NC Vitiligo community, we rise as one. We share our journeys, we laugh and we cry. Turning our scars into wings, we're born like butterflies. Looking in the mirror now, I see a warrior's face. Every shade of my skin's part of God's loving grace. Shout out to my friends that said don't hide. To the ones that taught me to wear my spots with pride. To the hands that hold me down when the days feel long. Together we're unshakable, we're NC strong. Says to every person with vitiligo that's learning to glow, we are beautiful and now the world will know. No matter the color, no matter the line, living our truth of love refined as we shine because it's our time.